He is the man of the moment here in Los Angeles, not named Kobe. Let's put it that way. He is the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams after making a big blockbuster trade for the #1 overall selection. Back here on the Rich Eisen Show, Les Snead. How are you, Les?
I'm good. How about you?
I am doing well. When did this start first coming together? When was the first time you picked up the phone to John Robinson and said, let's talk. Let's hear what you got in mind.
Well, we were in Indianapolis at the Combine. So at that point in time, you probably really don't need a phone. But the way they do things with the NFL clubs is you actually have a lottery and pick a suite number out of the hat. And that's the suite that your club can use during the Combine. Mm-hmm. And I happened to look over to my right. My neighbor was the type, and was able to kind of sneak out the back and knock on the door and have a little chat with John, and that's where it started.
So if your suite mate next door were, say, the Broncos, this trade would never have happened, you're saying, Les. Should I read into that?
At that point, I probably would have then reverted to technology and made the call.
Okay, so that's the genesis of it, just to see what's what. At that time, did you think you knew who you would be wanting to trade up for just at that point at the Combine?
Well, at that point in time, you're far down the path in terms of your evaluations of the player. So you had a good idea. Now you still had some I's to dot, T's to cross. The main reason for the conversation was, would they be willing to go from 1 to 15? Because that move's never been made, and didn't know if it would be possible. But at that point in time, I think you got to feel that they wanted to move back, and you know what? They decided to go to 15.
Yeah, and so I guess if at that point in time you've done your evaluation on guys that you might trade up for, do you know, as we are talking right now, the guy that you're going to hand the card in for in 13 days in Chicago?
We still have, what we'll do is, to be honest, we've got it narrowed down, but we will definitely use these next, if you want to call it, I would say maybe not 13 days, but next 7 to 10 to really, if you want to call it, put the period on the end of the sentence. But we're far down the path.
You're far down the path, and for this player, let's talk about your evaluation of both quarterbacks then. What makes Carson Wentz attractive as a first overall selection for the Los Angeles Rams?
I think with him, and I'll say this from the start, I think both of these two young men, guess what? They're going to make their clubs happy, and they're going to be successful in the league. And both of them are similar but different. But I think their similarities are what's going to make them successful. But I think it's all been said on Carson. Like I said, he's a large human being. That always helps for two reasons. It's harder to sack larger human beings, and he can see over his linemen, strong arm. But he has that athleticism and that mobility that gives him, he had 700 yards rushing, not this year, but the year before. So he's got more than mobility in the pocket. He can be a little bit of a weapon as a quarterback running it. And obviously I think, winning games, even though it's at 1AA level, but they've been winning championships 4 years in a row. So there's an element of pressure when you walk into a season. And guess what? The only thing that makes that season successful is another championship, not a 14-1 season, but another championship. So I think all those things kind of mix together to make him an interesting prospect.
And what about Goff, Les?
Similar to Carson, again, they're different in a way, is Goff, again, is a tall kid who can see over his lineman. He has also got quick feet, probably in a short area, and that allows him to have good mobility in the pocket, and maybe not as much as a weapon as Carson is running the football, but he's hard to sack, and hey, the guy has a very accurate arm. He's been at Cal. He's thrown a lot of passes against good competition. And what's interesting when you look at him is his offensive line did struggle, and he is used to pressure. When you come to the NFL, you're going to get pressure. You're not going to have clean pockets. And for 3 years now, he's had to deal with an unclean pocket, and I think that'll really help translate to our game.
Rams general manager Les Snead here on the Rich Eisen Show 2 days after consummating this deal with the Tennessee Titans for the first overall selection in the draft. It was announced on Thursday morning. We'll get to that in a second. But in terms of the quarterback position, when we spoke on the last day of St. Louis Rams football, you were kind enough to come on the show in the Edward Jones Dome. You're talking about how you're going to evaluate the quarterback position. Clearly, it looks like you have now gone ahead and said we're going to choose the rookie and see what we can do with that guy. At any point in time, did this team consider the quarterback that you had a shot at selecting in 2012, RG3? Did you ever kick the tires on him?
No, we never did. And going back to what I've said this offseason, we did feel very, very comfortable, if we had to go into the season with Case and Sean Mannion and Nick Foles at this point. And Case had, like I said, I've mentioned it many times before, you earn your reputation as a QB. And although Case doesn't have a big name, and you were there on that Thursday night, and you only saw one game of the four that he played, but what Case did do was earn our respect, earned our team's respect. So we felt comfortable. Guess what? We're going to go with Case. We would see with Sean Mannion how he evolved. And in a quarterback room, if you start just bringing in, people every single year to learn a new offense, get reps, and all those things, it's just a hard thing to do. It's not a position, like tight end where you can bring in an extra tight end, and next thing you know, you got four active on game day, and they're all playing reps on game day.
And when you said that by the time you hit the combine, you already had a lot of these guys pretty much well scouted and put on your board, is it safe to say that the genesis of this trade might have been born in, say, October, November, while you and your staff are out there amongst the sticks, if you will, looking at these kids?
Well, I think probably in October, November, it was if you want to call it, let's take the QB position. There were some that were coming to the top, if you want to call it cream to the top, and you knew that there was going to be some prospects in this draft that were going to have a chance to start in the NFL and help their teams win. But again, in October, November, you're just really lining them up. And as we know in the QB position, you had a lot of research on them, but to pull off a trade if you want to get a QB, you probably couldn't do it in November. You would definitely need the off season because you definitely want to sit down with these guys. You want to vet these guys. You want to figure out the human being, figure out the psychology, the mental, the intangibles, how they're going to be off the field, in the locker room, all those things. And that can't be done in November or by.
And, these decisions obviously are all made to win games, and you're in a very tough division. We all know that. But these decisions can't be made in a vacuum. This is Los Angeles, and everyone keeps saying you got to be splashy. We saw, obviously, what Kobe did on his last night for a team that's been not winning over the last couple of years with the Lakers. Did anything of the Los Angeles-ness of it all, Les, play into this, that you guys figured we need to make a splash here in our first year back in Los Angeles?
Not at all. And because we have a philosophy that, any splash you make, let's call it in the month of probably after the Super Bowl until September, yes, they can be splashy, but those fade fast. When the most important, months of our calendar happen between, September and the end of the season, and that's where you earn your, if you want to call it, your headlines, your columns, your tweets, and all of that. And I think at that point in time, if you do something just to be splashy, that's going to fade come September, October. So you always want to make a decision where you think it's going to, bear fruits during those important months.
And when did the Kobe finale come into the consideration of the announcement? When did you guys all sit down and go, wait a minute, maybe tonight's not the night to announce?
Well, it's interesting because obviously the first conversation started in Indianapolis,
right?
And over the last couple of weeks, it's gotten a little, it heated up, if you want to say, and then this week. We knew something may happen at the end of the week, that we would either, come to a yay or a nay type decision. And, but things, organically really heated up. I think it was Wednesday. And obviously, we're all into the draft. We're trying to, we're into Los Angeles Rams football. very aware of, hey, what's going on in L.A. with Kobe and even the Warriors, and I probably can't say the Warriors in L.A. It's probably not a good thing.
Right.
But when you get engrossed in your trade, you kind of forget what's going on. Didn't know who was winning primaries at that point in time either. And then I think Kevin Demoff, as we were talking at the very end, said, this is Kobe's night. And we were like, oh, yeah, this is probably what, And so that's how it that's how that came to fruition. And we got on the phone with John, and the Titans were willing to sit on it until the next morning, and I thought that was a good decision.
Les, how does it feel, though, to be on the other side of a trade where you're giving up all those draft picks? I mean, you've been on the side of the trade where you get them all and how you can line them up. How does it feel to be on the other side where you've coughed up quite a bit of real estate over the next couple of drafts?
Well, we've worn both pair of shoes, and it's good to be on both sides. And by that I mean when we did if we don't call it the RG3 trade, we were a team that had 19 unrestricted free agents who weren't re-signed by other clubs. It was their last time playing. So 19 of the 53 guys on that 2011 Rams team, that was their last season of football. So we didn't have a foundation. We, similar probably to what the Titans were going through, had a young QB, needed more players, needed, other positions. And so the more picks we could do, the better. So what that allowed us to do is build a foundation. For the last 4 years, we've been the youngest team in the NFL. So we've got a core, we've got a foundation. So what that allowed us to do this time is, hey, let's go get a piece that we think is important. We'll give up some other, chances for acquisitions down the line because we plan on re-signing some of our core. And you also have to have a plan that there's going to be moments where you're going to have to use free agency, and by that I mean not the big splashy free agents, but go acquire, good veterans that can give you, 1 to 2 to 3 years and get you through a crunch if need be.
Last one for you, Les. Before that, as you referred to it, RG3 trade, you came on the podcast version of this show from which this show was born, and you dropped breadcrumbs, unbeknownst to us, on that show about your thoughts on what it would take to pry the number 2 overall pick loose, and then sure enough, that happened. Did you, in your evaluation of Wentz and Goff earlier in this interview, drop breadcrumbs unbeknownst to me and my listening and viewing audience, Les?
If I did, it was unintentional. Could be subliminal or Freudian or something. But so I'm very guarded on that one. What I can tell you, because you're a big part of presenting or the content of the draft,
yes, sir,
to all our great fans, I can tell you that that first pick was should be suspenseful for you guys, and I think that's good for yourself and your network.
Okay, Les, there is no I in Les or Snead. You're a team player when it comes to that, so thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thanks for having me,
You
Rich.
bet, same. That's Les Snead.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.